accept the recording. Yes, it works.
Okay. Let me introduce you Camilla Monga, Italian choreographer and dancer. Her piece In the Moment we will present in the frame of the festival, and now we try to introduce to you the way how Camilla works, and maybe we say something more detailed about the piece. So my question, or first question, is that your work explore improvisation and instant composition. So could you tell us how do you distinguish or understand the difference between these two disciplines?
Okay, so my inspiration is based by music. We work with a very sophisticated range of improvisation, even in the music field. It means, so for example, in this case, we work with EMANUELE, MANISCALCO, and he is improviser. He is a jazzist musician, jazz musician, and we found a way to compose in a very similar way. So in my case, of course, I don't use music, but I use the same technique of Emanuele Maniscalco in order to describe the quality of the movement, and also to compose movement with my dancers. And Emanuele has a very big range of improvisation in terms of duration and in terms of the quality of the music. So it means that the score of the music, it's quite the same, but we cannot predict some specific variations. And for this reason, we are totally dependent on his way to play music in live context. And this condition let us to be very focused on the movement, but at the same time on the listening. And we have a double mind. It's funny in a way, but it's not complicated. I think it's the most natural relationship that you can find in dance. So if you think about the origin of dance, so we start to dance because we listen the music, no?
So, yeah. Maybe I just catch up one word you used, like we use the same technique with so can you tell something more about what do you mean by this technique, or what is in the core of what you understand as a technique which is common for this music and dance improv for you?
Yes. So for example, when he play a score, a music score, so it's the first. It's just like playing the score as a very first time, and it's the same for us. So, for example, we have some fixed movement, fixed steps to do on stage, but we have to find a way to refresh every time our way to dance. So it's quite complicated to explain, but when we practice this approach, it's quite simple, and we like so much because we were not bored about this system. It's a way also to be fresh every time that we repeat the showing date. And also there is a kind of a system of instructions that is very related to the space. So, for example, I give you an example because I have some notation here. Maybe sometimes it's useful to show, maybe like this. Okay. Sorry. Okay, this is another work, but for example, here. Voila.
Okay.
Okay, no, it's quite okay.
Yeah. Okay, no, the first time was good. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's a very simple indications about the space and the direction of the movement into the space, and this kind of trajectory you can consider as a musician. You can consider a part of the score. So, for example, in this line, so it's a movement in diagonal, and then there is another movement to the opposite, and the musician has to find a way to put the music inside one, and also in this trajectory. And
okay, so for each trajectory in the space, he has a certain score which he is using, and depends on how you overlap. Yeah.
So in other simple words, so our trajectory, it's a kind of notation that it's very useful even for the musician. He can read by our movement the music in a very logic way, and he can follow our movement, and at the same time we have to follow his music. So it's a kind of it's always a kind of negotiation
in the moment.
In the moment, on the spot. Yes.
Yeah. You know, I think this type of work requires a very specific preparation, and I think you need to know, like, dancers and musicians and work together for quite a long time. So is the cooperation with Stefano and Francesco, your two dancers, and you, of course, is it there for a long time? Did you, or how they how they were able somehow, or what they like about this type of work? So because I think it's kind of big adventure in a way, and it requires a lot of trust among dancers and musicians. And this type of improvisation, it's really you are very much depend on each other for a good result. So how the cooperation between you and those two guys, how long it is, and how was it that you get together?
Yes, we worked together for a long time, especially with Stefano. But for example, with Saverio, we work with the same field and with the same choreographers when we were a little bit younger. And I think this is it's very useful because it's a kind of education, no, in terms of professional field. And so the dance field is a kind of sharing knowledge all the time with different contemporary dance choreographers, but we have the same DNA, no? And also I like so much when you find a different way to dance. For example, Saverio is very academic, but he found a very specific way to improvise his movement, and this way makes him a very unique dancer. And also Stefano has a very different background, but together, so they are so beautiful, and there is a very specific and nice communication, even if they are so different. And I think it's a democratic dance field. So
it's very difficult discipline for me, because improvisation nowadays in contemporary dance is used like a very common tool for generating movement material for choreographers, and then they set up the piece based on what dancers bring to the creation process. But improvisation as a performance is completely different discipline for me, and it requires much more experiences, and it's not always, it's sometimes very risky. The result could happen or could not. So why you decided for this type of performance? What is for you the most challenging, or why you decided to do this type of performances? Because it's really not easy.
Yeah, I think I really like the risk. But at the same time, I can predict kind of result. So it's not very naive way to consider the improvisation. It's not improvise and do whatever. There is some specific structures, and I like improvise in this way. So I think when I discover how jazz music works, I found, wow, so much affinities with this kind of field, because you can find a very good musicians, and they study a lot, for example, classical music, or in a very conservative way, music studies, and with a very strong execution. But at the same time, they found great techniques to improvise, and it means that it's not completely free, but there is the way to lead the freedom, and also you can consider the mistake, but the mistake, it's not a real mistake. It's a positive way, because we have to find a good solution to survive after the mistake. In this case, the mistake can be a good crucial point.
Good challenge for something new. I think in this type of performance, you are pretty busy with yourself and with the stuff which go on stage. But I think it's very important also that audiences are the part of the show. So how do you feel do you feel also an instant contact with the audiences during the performance, during this type of performance? How that influence your execution?
I think the audience has a very important presence for us, because it's totally different when there is the audience. I don't know if I'm too much philosophic, but I don't know. I feel the sensation that it's linked to the spirituality, and the spirituality. So it's not linked to the religion, but when I feel the presence of the audience, I think something changed completely, and I don't know why, but so the duration of the music piece, it's always unpredictable. And what happened, even if we have a very simple structure to do, it becomes another stuff. And yeah.
So audience is very, it's a part of the show somehow.
It's a part of the show, yeah.
And because you will present the piece at the Slovak National Gallery.
Yes.
So maybe my last question is like, what is interesting for you in presenting the work in this site-specific context? Why it's interesting for you?
Yes, I like so much usually to avoid the theatrical boxes, and so this space is amazing, but especially the relationship with the audience could be totally different, and also the rules about the space, it becomes so different than a very typical theatrical space, and the audience can be more involved in the performance, and we try to use this space as a good variation also for the execution. I cannot predict what will happen, but I'm sure that it's a radical changement, even I think especially for us. Yes, and also this type of work, it could be changeable if you see the piece from different point of view. There is not just only the frontal space, but I don't know, but
it's really, it's very, space is an actor in the show for you as well.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I hope we were seducing enough our audiences and explain a little bit about your work, and we are looking forward to see you in Bratislava. Thank you very much.
Thank you.